and they were like, these are the rules, like you are just supposed to read the thing, right?
Yeah.
They won't allow me to do it any other way. So his name wasn't mentioned, right? So I'm on Facebook, and then I think a Shatter fan or someone came to ask me that, oh, why didn't you mention Shatter? I said, hey, you see now the trouble has come up. So I said, oh, it has nothing to do with me. It has to do with Shatter and Chatter.
So this is something that happened in 2014, and it popped up on X after her interview, and there were some few interesting comments here and there, and people are saying that Shatta Wale has been through a lot. I tell you, he has actually been through all the possible phases that any other brand can go through, but these are some of the things that makes the industry also interesting. But I mean, this is old, but it also tells us that, I mean, sometimes it's not all the time that we come here and we say things that we want to say and what have you, but sometimes you just have to say it and then, you know, just go home, sort of. But it's just interesting to know that, or her side of the story. And people were fighting her, people were, you know, saying a whole lot to Sister Debbie. That was in 2014, and she didn't have much to say because she was being attacked and stuff. But now she's told us exactly what happened, so we'll just leave that at that, and to some sad news that happened on June 3rd. So tribute continued to pour in following the passing of Mobile Awards founder Kanye King at the age of 57. Now, the artist, public figures, and industry leaders, including Idris Elba, Stormzy, Alicia Dixon, and Sadiq Khan, have celebrated her contributions to the music industry and culture after decades of championing Black talent in the United Kingdom. King founded the Music of Black Origin Awards in 1996, using her own resources at a time when many Black artists struggled for mainstream recognition. Her story serves as a powerful reminder that lasting change often begins with a single vision. Nearly 3 decades later, the platform she created continues to open doors, shape careers, and influence the global music landscape. So it's quite unfortunate, but may her, I mean, these days cancer is doing a lot out there, but I just hope that everybody is taking care of themselves the best way that they know how. It's just quite unfortunate, but I also love the fact that people are appreciating her, and then some of the good works that she's done are popping up. I mean, people say that, you know, we don't have to wait for the person to be dead before, but this woman has been celebrated, I can say for a fact, and she's been killing it since 1996. She's been doing the Mobile Awards, and we know that that's one of the biggest awards in the continent, and it's just quite unfortunate. But I'm very sure that there are people, she has a team, so it is still going to happen. But as and when I get details on that, I'll do well to share that with you. And once again, Kanye King, may your soul continue to rest in peace. So this is where I draw the curtains down for today's entertainment update here on the WoezorTV Breakfast Cafe. My name is Evergreen Asantua. For more lifestyle, trending stories, and entertainment news, do well to stay with us here on WoezorTV. On Wednesday at 2:00 p.m, Tune Talk comes your way. We talk the tune and we live the vibe. Thank you for watching. Have a good morning. Enjoy the rest of the program.
Gentlemen, I've got some bad news and some good news. Okay, the bad news is that your chances of getting prostate cancer are now just 7 to 1. In fact, prostate cancer is killing one man every single hour of the day in this country. Imagine that, one every hour of the day. But the good news is, we're forming a team to stop that clock. Men United. It's time men united together to fight prostate cancer, the way women have united against breast cancer. We need to get together and find a cure, as well as better ways to care for the 250,000 prostate cancer sufferers out there. Please, get on side and join us in the fight. Men United versus prostate cancer. We can win this.
Your flight is ready to leave.
Sit back and relax and enjoy the flight.
You're welcome back to the WoezorTV Breakfast Cafe, and yes, we get into our main convo for today. And yesterday we marked World Food Safety Day, and so this morning we would want to have a conversation on food safety. And the theme for this year's Food Safety Day, World Food Safety Day, is from burdens to solutions, safe food everywhere. And this theme actually challenges us to move beyond awareness and also follow practical steps that can help prevent foodborne diseases and protect public health. And so this morning, we want to talk about that and remind ourselves that the foods that we eat should nourish us and not harm us. This morning, joining us over phone is Professor Nicole Kote, a food scientist with the University of Health and Allied Sciences. Good morning to you, Prof, and thank you so much for joining us here on WoezorTV.
Hello, good morning.
Thanks
I would like to take the opportunity to say hello to all your listeners and all your viewers.
Thank you so much, Prof. Let's get in real quick into our conversation. When we talk about food safety, what does it mean?
Right, so food safety simply means the absence of foreseeable, unacceptable risk, or the assurance that food will not cause harm to the consumer when it is prepared or eaten according to its intended use. So that is a more user-friendly term for food safety.
And when we talk about food safety, on the average, how well should a Ghanaian care about World Food Safety Day? I mean, why do I have to care about Food Safety Day?
Right. World Food Safety Day is a day set aside to observe this remarkable day, in the sense that we are aware the harm or the myriad of risk that food poses to us and the ultimate diseases and ultimately furthermore to cause death. Statistics have reported that about 420,000 cases of foodborne illnesses occur every year. That is according to the WHO. And out of just 420,000 cases, that is in Ghana, about 600 million cases every year. Additionally, the Accra Metropolitan Assembly reported that about 170 cases occur every year. That is from the year 2019. I'm not too sure if the statistics has changed over the years since 2019. In summary, I think it cannot be overemphasized that food safety is of importance to the Ghanaian population, owing to the fact that it causes lots of foodborne diseases, which thereby affect productivity both in the household and nationwide.
Right, Paul. And so, talking about foodborne diseases and with the numbers you've already mentioned, does that mean that they are more common than we know in our part of the world?
Yes. So, foodborne illnesses arise from, let me say, three major factors. I'll make mention of contamination, which has unintentional and intentional contamination. The intentional has to do with the fact that we intentionally add certain chemicals to our food to achieve some desired effect, such as the use of food additives. We use food additives to bulking our foods, to color our foods, to improve aroma or scent after it has gone through some food processes, etc., etc. These are the desired effects. However, we don't know the outcome of its effect. We have achieved our effect that we desire, all right, that is on the surface or superficially. But inwardly, there could be some reactions between these chemicals that have been added to achieve these desired effects. So these are intentional contaminations. However, there are, on the other side, unintentional contaminations which we don't have control over, such as the production of mycotoxins in our foods, the occurrence of pesticide residues in our food. These are unintentional, but some way somehow they end up in our foods and contaminate our foods to add onto the burden of diseases that we have. Then again, we have poor hygiene. Poor hygiene. That is something that we must take very we must take notice of. Poor hygiene, both on the personal level and the environmental level. Then lastly, we have temperature of storage of foods, which usually cause the growth of microorganisms. So I think these are some of the causes of foodborne illnesses that the public must be made aware of.
Right, Prof. Thank you very much. But dwelling on the causes of foodborne diseases, ones that you have stated, you made mention of the leaching of pesticides into the food. How does this happen?
Right. So these days, you will agree with me that many of our agricultural practices are not natural any longer. There's like testing, we apply chemicals. So something that would have required a simple melting or application of ash, as our forefathers used to do, we grab a knapsack spray and then spray all sorts of weedicides, herbicides, etc. All these chemicals. These chemicals can be avoided, but we don't use them. Sometimes we don't allow for enough time or intervals between the application of the chemicals and then the usage of the food. So it goes a long way to affect us. I can speak for what I said applies to the animal side to a similar thing occurs with the antibiotics and other chemicals that are injected into farm. That is animals in the farm, and then it also requires an interval for these chemicals to be put. However, they end up in our food, and it goes a long way to affect our internal organs.
Okay. So, hello, Prof. Hello.
Hello, Karen, I'm here.
Right. So, yeah, we lost you for a bit. Can you please position yourself a bit so we can hear you clearer? If that would be okay.
Right.
Right.
Is it okay now?
Yes, it's okay.
Or not too good?
We'll make do with this. And so, Prof, again, we have spoken about the causes of food contamination here. We're talking about the leaching of the fertilizers and all the hygiene bit into it. Let's talk about the handling of food, the poor handling of food. You made mention of it in the earlier submissions. Can you expand more on it for us? So, the poor handling of food.
Yes. So, foods, like we all know, one, they are supposed to be clean. They are supposed to be clean. But many times, we don't wash them very well. So they end up, that is the pathogens on the surface of the foods end up in our food. Then separation. We have talked about cleanliness. Then separation. There's the need to separate our food to prevent cross-contamination. Sometimes we put poultry above, let's say, vegetables. The poultry, when the temperature is not good, that is not frozen. It's rich upon melting onto our leaves or carrots or beans. And this brings about cross-contamination as the microorganisms in the poultry move from the poultry onto our foods. When we talk about insufficient cooking. Our meat, poultry, seafood must be thoroughly cooked. Because many of them come with attendant pathogens. And when they are not thoroughly cooked, they don't easily disappear, So they go a long way to cause harm to our gut. And then handling of temperature. Some foods require low temperatures. Some foods also require hot temperatures. If the vice versa happens for a particular food, let's say a particular food is supposed to be kept cold, and it doesn't meet its required temperature, it creates problems because microorganisms proliferate and cause more harm. Likewise, if a food is supposed to be eaten hot, and it's not eaten hot, but rather cold, it creates more avenue for growth of microorganisms and these cause harm. Then washing of fruits and vegetables.
Right, Paul. And so talking about cross-contamination, for the lay person who is not privy to some of these rules of food science or food hygiene, who is at home watching as our viewer, can you highlight some 2 or 3 things that we usually do in our kitchens when cooking, which exposes us to cross-contamination of food?
Good. Right. So the most common occurrence has to do with the use of utensils when it comes to, let's say, the use of cooking knife to cut meat, and then thereafter, immediately afterwards, maybe some forgetfulness, inadvertently, you use the same knife to cut your tomato. There may be a likelihood of transfer of pathogens from raw meat or raw poultry into the tomatoes, and these are very common occurrences. Again, I made mention of the storage, whereby we are supposed to separate the bloody foods, raw bloody foods, that is the meat, the poultry, etc., from the other things of foods. It could be legumes, cereals, etc. But many times we place one on top of the other, especially placing the cereal. It creates an avenue for leaking a leaking of blood substances onto these problems. I can go ahead and say some many more, but I think this example should be enough.
Right, Prof. Thank you very much for that. Now let's talk about talking of food storage. You've made mention of how we should store the food so in their raw state. Now, how about we cooking the food and then there are leftovers? How is the storage of leftover of food like? How should it be?
Good. So, in the Ghanaian system, we hardly prepare food and eat all at once. Because of economic reasons, we are able to leave some over for the next period. That is, next 2 or 3 days. However, the handling or storage of these foods must be properly done. In the sense that many of our foods are delicate. When we talk about okra soup, groundnut soup, okra stew, and a few others, they are very delicate. And then there are some that are not too delicate. However, there is a need for us to reheat our foods thoroughly. There are certain microorganisms that are able to thrive in conducive temperatures. So immediately we expose them to moist environment, warm temperature, etc. They tend to grow rapidly. So there is a need for us to reheat our foods very well to destroy these microorganisms. So it doesn't cause problems. I don't know if you've ever had any experience with food poisoning. Let's say in your salad, especially salad, when it is not stored properly, the microorganisms begin to grow, and then when you eat them, you get problems for you, especially the intestinal tract. You have some complications in the vomiting, nausea, and all that. It all comes about as a result of not properly heating our foods or properly reheating our foods before consumption.
Right. And so, Prof, talking about properly heating our food now, how well, or I kind of read somewhere that multiple reheating of food can actually contaminate the food. How true is this?
Well, the food must be reheated not too many times. The point we are making pertains more to our vegetable cooking oil. It is the reheating usually affects it because of the hydrogenation and accidentally affects the whole body. But the main food, when it is reheated several times, I think it is better. And it shouldn't be reheated severally, too many times. So the advice is that you cook a little at a time, but you do not need to keep on reheating for let's say 3 weeks or more. That one will become problematic. There is a tendency of you not eating it sufficiently.
Right. So, Prof, again, in your earlier submissions, you made mention of food poisoning and you cited an example of salad. Many a times we tend to know, or salad has become the main culprit in some of these things. But I read somewhere too about something called the fried rice syndrome, caused when rice is left for a long period of time and it's not warm before eating. Can you expound on food poisoning, and then pay particular attention on the fried rice syndrome for us, just for our viewers' info?
Right. So, as I earlier on mentioned, salad is a wonderful food. That is a combination of 2 or more vegetables or 2 or more fruits and rice salad. However, the handling of salad is one particular thing that really causes a lot of problems when not properly handled, especially when it comes with the accompaniments of the things, the mayonnaise, the salad creamings, the hollandaise, etc. These media that in the great rapid growth and proliferation of these systems. It's advised that salad consumed fresh. It's never advisable for you to consume salad if you don't know the time of preparation. Sometimes they are prepared at dawn, and then they are eating some around 4 p.m., 3:30 p.m. It becomes disastrous because, like I said, because of the media that comes with the creams and all that, they are good grounds. The multiplication of these harmful microorganisms. These microorganisms produce what we call intoxication and infection. Infection is when the microorganism occurs alone, and then it is ingested. Intoxication refers to when it produces toxins in the food and it is ingested. So all these can also combine to have its effect in the human.
Right, Prof. Thank you very much for that. And so, before we...
let me expatiate on the fried rice syndrome.
Yes.
With the fried rice syndrome, basically, I think it arises from fungal contamination of the rice when it is not properly reheated. Many a times the fungal one the bacteria through the feed medium or the substrate, what we refer to as the substrate. So it manifests after you see the rapid growth of the fungi. But this is not good for it's not good. It is not clean. And it causes all the harm. If it is not properly heated, there could be some fragments of this fungal mass in the rice. And as a result of improper heating, you could have some portions being destroyed while some portions are maintained. And these go a long way to affect our health. They pose a lot of health risks.
All right. And so, Prof, before we let you take leave of us, what are some of the things that consumers or household can put in place? Some measures they can put in place to avoid food contamination and in the long term make sure that the foods we take in our homes are safe and wholesome for us.
Okay. So I would like to begin from the contamination point of view. We can't eliminate contamination entirely. So there are certain steps that are recommended to us. So when it comes to the consumption of grains and cereals, I think it is advised that we are purchasing from the market, especially if they are bought in bulk, or even at the domestic level, it can be split open and properly dried. When they are properly dried, the humidity and all the relative humidity factors that make it conducive for the freezing to go in there and are eliminated. The countries are able to produce microtoxins and open toxins, lemonism, etc. These are substances that are produced by the fungi and they cause a lot of contamination in our foods. We don't normally, unfortunately, see naked eyes. So I recommend, or we recommend that our grains and other foods that are usually contaminated by this one are properly dried. I will recommend proper hygiene, good personal hygiene, and then good environmental hygiene. Then storage of foods at appropriate temperatures must be done. If you need to store your food in the deep freezer, please do. Don't make it sit for it to get contaminated before you transfer it into your fridge or the deep freezer. Make sure you store it at the appropriate temperature. If there is a need for you to heat it before putting it in the refrigerator, please do so. Again, there are certain quality systems that will help reduce contamination. That is good agricultural practices, good manufacturing practices, good hygiene practices, hazard analysis, quality control. That is perfect. These are all quality control systems that can help reduce contamination of foodborne illness.
All right, Prof. So we want to thank you so much for your time with us this morning here to educate us on food safety as part of the World Food Safety Day.
The pleasure is all mine.
Thank you. Thank you once again. And so, viewers, that was Professor Julian Kote. There, he is a food scientist at the University of Health and Allied Sciences in Ho. Thank you so much for joining us there. And he made a mention of a number of things. And one thing that really stuck with me was that in our kitchens, the chopping boards we use and then the knives we use, if you have used that knife to cut your meat or your whatever proteins, do not use that same knife to go and cut your vegetables. And that will help us prevent cross-contamination of food, amongst many other things. The issue of food safety is not just for food handlers, it's not just for people who operate in the food industry. It is a collective effort for each and every one of us, because, you know, safe food means that our health is safe, our lives are also safe. Because it will shock you, to interest you to know that just one wrong thing you eat, it's just that little food poison, that bacteria that gets into the food that was left unattended for a number of hours, or that wasn't heated properly, and that is going to lead you to face a number of health challenges. And so let's take note of all that he has shared with us, the nuggets he shared with us here on the WoezorTV Breakfast Cafe. Another special thank you to Professor Akoli Kote once again for spending time with us. And that will be it for the discussion on food safety this morning. Make it a collective effort. It is actually a collective effort for all of us. And whatever nugget you've had here today, please put it into practice and let's save all of us. From our own little small, in our own little small ways, from our kitchens, we can start saving ourselves. Do not let it escalate into something big, into getting into full-term food poison or full-blown food poison that you have to be admitted in the hospital. And then again, this is where we draw down curtains on the WoezorTV Breakfast Cafe. Thank you so much for staying with us from 7 up until now. We'll come your way once again tomorrow with another exciting episode of the WoezorTV Breakfast Cafe. Special thanks to Ewu Adams Karim, Randia Haji, Evergreen Asanto, and Godfred Amuafo for making this a success, and also our production team. Thank you all, and take your keep your dials on WoezorTV. We have more for you. It's bye for now.